G'day. F1 drivers are at a track for 4 days over a typical race weekend, and they're there from normally 8 a.m. to maybe 10 p.m. What do they do all day? After all, they're only on track for 2 hours. Well, I'll tell you in some detail after this. Let's have a look at a typical 4 days at a track for someone like a Fernando Verstappen. Yes, a driver for Scuderia Alfa Larin. And we're going to use the Japanese Grand Prix as an example, which is a daytime race. So for a start, every driver will have a very detailed rundown of their 4 days. Now, it's a dynamic thing. It will change, but certainly by a Thursday morning, the majority of it will be done. So let's have a look at Fernando's. He starts off with an 8 a.m. wake-up. He then takes an 8:30 trip to the track. In Japan, that will be a short trip because most of the drivers stay at a hotel that is probably a kilometre from the track. But they'll still drive in because they can't walk in, because it's just not possible, they'll get mobbed. They'll head into the track via the swipe gates, and then as you can see here, their breakfast is scheduled for 8:45 at the hospitality suite at the track. For all of the drivers, there's a column which details what clothing they have to be in. So as you can see, Fernando can come in casual gear, but once he gets to his first activity, which is a meeting with PR staff at 9:15, he's required to be in team kit. And then you have another column which simply says the assistant, who will be accompanying the driver to wherever it is he is going. Do they always have an assistant? Yes, mostly yes, I should say. If it's just simply a walk across to the garage and you're a lesser driver, someone say on a Williams team or down that end of the paddock, you probably don't need one. But if you're a Lewis or a Charles, yes, you'll probably have someone by your side. At 10 o'clock, there's a track walk scheduled. Now, do all the drivers do that? No. I'm guessing about 12 of the 20 do it. They'll be dressed in team kit, and they'll typically have their performance engineer, their race engineer, perhaps a strategist, maybe their trainer, and perhaps another one or two people. And what is the purpose of a track walk? It's really just one-to-one time the close people working with the driver have with their driver. Yes, they'll stop and talk about different corners and stuff, but otherwise it's an opportunity just to spend a quality hour. At 11 a.m, it's final seat fitting in the garage in the driver's race suit. At 11:30, there might be a fan zone appearance, in which case Dana would accompany Fernando, although normally someone from F1 comes and picks them up and takes them over in a vehicle. She'll also have drivers' cards to give away, and while the drivers are on stage, all of those helpers stand around the back and wait. There may be a meet and greet for sponsors at 12 noon, in which case that's probably in the hospitality suite and a team kit would be required. 12:15, it's lunch, and what would a driver typically have for lunch? Well, grilled chicken, grilled salmon, vegetables, and perhaps an energy drink might be on the cards. And who makes that? Well, that's done by the in-house catering. Every team has a caterer, which looks after drivers, team, and even corporate sponsors and media. Now, I've suggested here that a driver gets in at 8 o'clock on a Thursday for media day. However, drivers like Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton may delay their arrivals until much later, just prior to the FIA press conferences. And they may, for European races, fly in on the morning. Most of the drivers, though, would be at the particular circuits on the Wednesday evening, ready to go Thursday morning. At 12:45, there's a massage, and that would be done in the driver's room. Every driver does have a driver's room at every track. And it's their personal space. It can be anything from a few square metres to 20 or 30 square metres, depending. 1:15, there's an interview with Racing News at the front of the garage. Dana will be making sure that Fernando rolls up in team kit. And at 2 p.m, it's the compulsory FIA press conference. And typically on the rundown, the driver will see who he's with. And in this case, Fernando's with George Hamilton, Oscar Ocon, and Sergio Leclerc. Although every second week the driver won't be in the press conference room, they'll be in the TV media pen. At 2:45, relaxation. Driver can do whatever he wants for that period. And then at 3:30, there's a team social media shoot for some content, which may be one or two drivers, followed by a signing session, which might be for the team. Or in my case, if I'm doing a signing session, which I am with this particular shot of Charles Leclerc, where I sign 50 of these prints, and you can actually get online now and purchase one of these. There are some left. And I'm signing this for Anita from the Netherlands. Thank you, Anita. At 5 p.m, there might be a sponsor photo shoot. Perhaps a new sponsor requires assets for their marketing, and that may take place perhaps in the paddock, maybe on track or in the motorhome. At 6:05 there'll be a press briefing, which is normally at the back of the garage, set against a sponsor's logo wall, and that'll be in team kit. Typically lasts as long as there are questions from the media, but rarely longer than 20 minutes, and then it's off to an engineering meeting. It's not uncommon that on a Thursday night, media day, there'll be a team or sponsor dinner. In this instance, there's an 8 o'clock commitment, which will necessitate leaving the track at 7:30 with someone from communications. At 9 o'clock, they head off, and then it's back to the hotel, and there's often a time indicated for being asleep. How does day 2 go then? Well, there are 2 on-track sessions, FP1 and 2, on a typical weekend. In this case, our driver needs to be up at 7:30. They'll depart the hotel at 8:15 for an 8:30 arrival at the track and breakfast in the hospitality suite. There's a 10 a.m. engineering meeting, a 10:45 paddock club appearance where they will normally speak to a group of corporate people up in a facility, dressed in their team kit and accompanied by a press officer. 11 a.m. there's a light snack, and who picks these snacks? Well, it is a nutritionist, normally working in conjunction with their trainer. At 11:10, there's preparation for the 11:30 FP1 session, and that may be a rub down in the driver's room, or perhaps skipping or kicking a football around, as is the case with Charles Leclerc. At 11:30, yes, on track for an hour. Finishes at 12:30, there's lunch at 12:45, 30 minutes of relaxation set down for 1:15, an engineering debrief at 1:45, before the driver prepares for FP2 at 3 o'clock. And for those of you who didn't know, there's always a 2.5 hour gap between FP1 and FP2, and FP3 and quali. In this case, there's a press briefing at 4:05 at the back of the garage. At 4:30, there's a light snack. 4:45, some relaxation time, before a 5:45 interview with RTL, which is a European TV network. There's a 7:30 dinner in the hospitality suite, an 8:45 departure, some relaxation time back at the hotel, and then by 11 p.m. the driver is supposed to be asleep. Do they always adhere to this? Well, I guess only the driver knows that. I'm sure there are occasions where they don't. For day 3 of the Japanese Grand Prix, our driver awakes at 7:30, departs for the track at 8 to arrive by 8:30, often pretty busy traffic coming in on Saturdays and Sundays. A communications meeting at 9:15, followed by a 10 a.m. meeting for engineering. 10:30, see some relaxation time. Then some preparation for FP3, which kicks off at 11:30. Now, the driver typically enters the garage anywhere from about 15 minutes before the session starts to even as late as a couple of minutes into the session, if it's not urgent that they actually start the session on track. Someone like a Lewis comes over to the garage very late, and there's much fanfare out the back of the garage with security clearing a path for him to get through, while a younger driver, perhaps like Logan Sargent, he might get there 20 minutes prior to the start of the session. At 12:45, I've got listed here lunch, followed by a partner meet and greet in the hospitality suite, and then there are no commitments prior to the start of quali. Straight after quali, every driver must attend the TV media pen if they haven't made the top 3. If they are in the top 3, they will have to go through interviews out in Parc Fermé. They'll have to do a press conference in the press conference room. At 5 o'clock, there might be a Sky TV interview. 6 o'clock, relaxation. 7:30, dinner at the track. Another interview, and then the driver's back at his hotel by 9:40 with some free time before they go to bed at 11. Sunday, race day at the Japanese Grand Prix, and typically our drivers can get in a little bit later. In this instance, he's awake at 7:50, has breakfast at the hotel before heading to the track at 9 a.m. Arriving at the circuit at 9:30, probably head straight to the hospitality suite before at 10:30, a sponsor suite appearance. That'll probably be in the paddock club, although sometimes they have to go to external facilities that are outside the paddock and quite a drive, in which case there will be some sort of transport arranged, often a minibus or a golf cart, to ferry them to and from. And how long do they spend at these sponsor events? Typically, no more than 15 minutes. And what would a driver typically be paid for one of these sponsor appearances? Look, it could be anywhere from €5,000 to €50,000, depending on who the driver is and how long they're required to be there. And that will be worked into a driver's salary, or it'll be an extra payment made to the driver. Every race day there's a driver's parade, and that takes place 2 hours and 10 minutes prior to the start of the race. So in this instance, at 11:45 a.m, our driver has to be at the FIA garage at 11:45, ready for that 11:50 driver's parade. And that will probably last in the order of 20 minutes, where they're all interviewed on that particular bus, or they're interviewed prior to getting into individual cars. At 12:20, there's a light snack, and then from 12:35, there's preparation for the Japanese Grand Prix. With a 2 p.m. race start, the pit lane opens at 1:10 p.m, which is a bit earlier than last season. The drivers will then get into their car. They will do a number of formation laps where they actually don't drive down the pit straight because there's all of the team's gear set up there. Instead, they drive down pit lane, and typically they'll do 4 or 5 laps before coming onto the grid. They're rolled down to their starting position. They'll get out of the car. They'll have a quick chat with their engineer before they head off for a wee, and then they'll sit in their garage for some minutes, killing time and just pondering what the race start might look like before they head out for the national anthem. They then go back to their car, get in their car, and then at 2 p.m. they'll head off for 1 lap, and they come around on the grid, take their starting spots, and then probably by then it's 2:03 p.m, and then bang, they're off for the Japanese Grand Prix. Now, if a driver crashes out and doesn't complete the race, they have to attend the driver's TV media pen. All of the TV networks are set up there waiting for drivers to come back. And of course, if the race goes the full length without having any incidents, all of those journalists get to sit and watch it on television. But rarely that's the case. So they will interview drivers throughout the race as they come back. And it's not uncommon for a driver to do their press commitments and then just simply leave for the airport if they've got a private jet. Otherwise, after the race, everybody comes out of the FIA garage, apart from the top 3. They'll then go to the TV media pen, do their interviews, and then once all of their commitments are met, they leave the track. Whereas the top 3 have to do probably an hour of shenanigans with things like press conference, TV media pen, and a celebration photo in pit lane or in the paddock. Certainly with a 2 p.m. race, most of the drivers have departed the track by 6:30 p.m. So there you have a rundown for a fictitious driver, that being Fernando Verstappen, over 4 days of a fictitious Japanese Grand Prix. There's quite a lot of work to be done there. Not a great deal of it is actually driving a car. But that is the life of an F1 driver at a track. If you haven't ordered one of these yet, get online at kimellman.com, where you'll find other signed prints by drivers and team principals. You'll also find merchandise and photo books. You'll find all of my digital images at prostarpics.com. And for my best images live from the track and during the week, go to Instagram and search at Kim Illman. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. Require assets, and that can be done in... Who's that?